Disclaimer. In this video, I mention a lot of ties between religion, specifically Christianity in general, and science. I want to make it clear that I'm not aiming to discredit either, I just think that the links between them, especially as shown in these three games, is exceedingly interesting. Partial spoiler warning for these three games, and trigger warning for body horror and uncanny imagery. Think of a game in the genre of science fiction. Realistically, you're probably gonna think Portal, Cyberpunk, Fallout, Destiny even. I can almost guarantee you that you are not going to think of Acrophile. A simple point-and-click game that takes less than 40 minutes to complete, Acrophile centers on two anthropologists who visit a remote island on which it never seems to stop raining. Upon arrival, they encounter natives, but it's always too dark to see their eyes. This is a horror game, and so they're unnaturally unsettling to look at and interact with. But they always seem impossibly connected to the world around them, more specifically, the nature. Your task throughout the days of the expedition is to dig up artifacts for your partner Arthur to research. You find a machete, a skull, a piece of rope. These are unavoidable. You can't not take the action of digging if you want to complete the game. This is precisely what makes the game horrifying. In my opinion, more than anything else in Acrophile, being forced to dig up an ancient artifact in front of one of its members who only watches silently is, well, it's not exactly scary in the traditional sense. But it is, like I said, horrifying. You like to dig so much. Why do you dig up the things we buried? You're meant to feel ashamed of your own rash pursuit of knowledge. And I did. It's the story of Icarus, flying too close to the sun. Both protagonists' morbid curiosity spell out their doom. In fact, this primal need for careless research and enlightenment is one of the things a tribe member holds over your head to prevent you from leaving before the game is over. You try to click on the chopper that brought you to the island in the first place. Do not leave now. There's more to learn. You like to learn, don't you? Now, okay, I sort of lied to you. I wouldn't necessarily even call this game sci-fi. There aren't any laser guns or robots. In fact, the entire game is distinctly earthy. But realistically, there's no reason it shouldn't be considered sci-fi. Because this, and the other games I'll be talking about in this video, are about science. Anthropology, oceanography, and whatever field this is. But I'm not just here to talk about how cool these games are, although they are really, really cool. I want to talk about the fact that I cannot think of anything more closely intertwined with hubris than science. How is a neurosurgeon not just playing God? How is an anthropologist exploring a remote island not just a self-proclaimed messiah? In Yames's game Water Womb World, you play as a scientist researching the deep ocean for the quote, origin point of man's fall from grace. With extremely religious overtones, this game's protagonist seems to have a warped perception of reality. Your pursuit of religious confirmation in a scientific field seems bound to contradict itself. But as you venture out onto what you call the holy seabed, you sift through the silt, and you find a skull belonging to a humanoid who lived longer than anything on Earth ever has. You also find a strange fish that lived off of coral native to the region 10,000 years ago, and an old diving mask with biblical inscriptions etched onto it. Your character is beyond overjoyed by his discoveries. Even though I have been down here but briefly, he says, I can feel God working in my heart and opening my mind. The original sin of man, the original temptation, was that God opening the mind too? As soon as your research is complete, a sound like that of God's choir in heaven is heard. It's impossibly vast and hauntingly beautiful. You rationalize it as some kind of whale call for no more than a second. As always, the scientist is willing to face the most terrifying thing that exists for the satisfaction of an answer. The scientist is willing to face the unknown. And out on the seabed, emerging from the dark, you find the source of the hymn. Back in Acrophile, on the second day, you stumble across a rope bridge leading to the summit of the mountain. Whatever's up there is important and secret, being guarded by a native. They tell you you can't go up, you're not meant for the top yet. And, unquestionably, you're meant to disobey their will. You're meant to be that guy, meant to ignore the native and try to trek to the summit. You don't make it very far. Of course you don't. You may be stubborn, but the tribe members are even more so. That night, unable to sleep, you try to cross the bridge again under the cover of darkness. And you manage. There's always going to be something new in your way, though, and a sheer cliff prevents further ascent. You wake up again, unsure whether that was a nightmare or reality. The two become more and more synonymous with each second spent on the island. That day, you find another artifact. You find a locked box. It has a code which can be located in two places. During the game's credits, a looping string of Morse code is played. That same Morse code can be found in the game's files. This is where the story splits. Without opening the box, the day passes similarly to the past view. You go to sleep. However, this time, when you awake, you find Arthur gone. Reading his research journal, you find that it contains unnervingly incoherent ramblings. His lungs feel like they've been pressurized. He's never been so cold. You chase after him, upward to that beckoning summit. You watch as he climbs the rocky cliff that taunted you in the prior days, mindlessly shoving his hands and knees against shards of stone. Tying a flashlight you dug up on the end of it, your rope finally is something to catch on once thrown. You're finally able to follow Arthur. You're finally able to see what lies at the peak of the mountain. It's a cave. Inside, Arthur is huddled against a campfire. And then this happens. If you do happen to find the code for the box and open it, you find a gas mask inside. The rest of the game progresses identically up until the very end, when, before Arthur's death, you may equip the gas mask and prevent vulnerability to the fungal spores. Now having survived, you slowly retreat back to your helicopter in stunned silence. "Let me fly you back to shore, Hugh." You refuse. Arthur's knowledge is ours now. You ignore this. You seem to find safety in your mask, but the soil, the air, the water, we are ubiquitous. We've been colonizing you from the beginning. They urge you to let them accompany you back home. In a blind panic, you sacrifice yourself, crashing the helicopter into the waves below. Now you have no God, no savior. You only have yourself. And isn't that how you got yourself into this mess in the first place? Hundreds of feet below the ocean's surface, thousands maybe, you come face to face with an angel. It commands you to either leave this place or exchange one life for another, die as a man or join God in full flesh. It tells you that what you are doing is both analogous and the antithesis to the original sin. You are searching for purity whilst eating the fruit off the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. You're doomed, to say the least. But as a mortal man, you only grow more excited by the encounter. The messenger's warning was little more than nonsense to you, and you're determined to continue your research at whatever the cost. It wouldn't be a stretch to call your attitude manic. You return to looking for samples, this time retrieving 2 live specimens and 1 object from the silt. To yourself, you can't help but think, I believe I can know God, and I will know God. As your health, both mental and physical, slowly degrades from your work, you press on, inspecting your samples. A deathless fish, older than the previous and even more alien in structure, and yet another. The second's form is half coral polyp, beyond what would imply a simple diet. No, there's something very, very wrong here. And then you find it, the red coral, the thing saturating the guts of every fish that you found. You can hardly even write an adequate description through your metamorphosis. Upon your final journey out onto the seabed, you see divine beings, and you're ruined. There's another game by Ames, even shorter, just 10 minutes long. And Discover My Body is, well, it's sort of a black comedy. The opening text tells you that in the year 2040, humans have become desperate to find meaningful connection with the rest of the world. People have turned their backs on the church and towards new science and technology for this. This new science takes the form of a lab-synthesized fungus. You play a medical student merely there to sit and watch it infect a host. The host is a man that is never given a name, but is ultimately, uncomfortably optimistic. He makes small talk with you whilst undergoing tremendous physical trauma and body horror. All the while, you don't ever even talk back. Like I said, you're only there to sit and watch. You take a scan of his body and it seems normal until, holy shit, what is that thing? You inspect it and all he has to say is, aha, you've discovered the injection site. He tells you he took a bone-deep needle to the shin and that it hurt like hell before essentially saying that this weird fungal growth it produced was the best decision he'd ever made. He says that the face it bears probably looks like his dead mother and then just moves on. And this keeps happening for the rest of the game. On the skeletal level, aha, you've discovered my rotting bones. On the nervous level, aha, you've discovered the primordial inhibitor. This man is undergoing something that the human brain probably can't even comprehend, and he's acting like he's just telling you something funny that happened to him at work. Millions of years of evolution are being deliberately undone by man-made technology, so this man can turn into this. By the second stage of his change, his hands fall off, his bones grotesquely morph and reshape into a mess of root-like branches. His nervous system curls in on itself like a dead spider. Aha, he proclaims, you've discovered my new minds. He, impossibly coherent, explains that his mind is meshing with all the others in the system. His psyche is flooded with memories that aren't his own. He's entirely a part of the collective. I feel infinite pleasure as well as infinite pain. Is this what death is? A devastating pause. He's reached the final stages, and all at once his coherence goes, devolving into unintelligible ramblings that should have happened ages ago. He's never been so happy. I assume this must be a kind of new age rapture. But what's the point? I can already hear it now. Slugmick, it's awesome that you decided to make an inevitably divisive video exploring the ties between indie horror games and organized religion, but, why does any of this matter? And the simple answer is because I think it's really neat. But if I had to pick a reason that I think more people will probably respect, it's because I think we are, as a species, just horrifically close to becoming the plot of one of these horror games. Of course, we probably aren't ever going to find a remote rainforest tribe being born from alien fungi, nor is a devout Christian probably going to get turned into a giant sea monster after exploring the bottom of the ocean. But we have played chicken with fate. We do every day. The government has no problem making international relations even tenser. Billionaires invent pseudo-empathetic technology that isolates all of us even further. This isn't news, and is it really that crazy to think that if we had access to some unifying organism like the one in Discover My Body, that it wouldn't take just one bad year for it to seem like a good solution to our loneliness? Because the protagonists of these three games were normal people. Yes, even the second guy. Hugh the anthropologist just wanted to prove himself in his field and satiate his curiosity. The researcher in Walter Wombworld just wanted to feel connected to his god and connect his god to his work. The man in Discover My Body just wanted to feel not so alone. But, still, as human as these desires are, there is nothing more innate than pride. The urge to keep digging deeper even when you're already 6 feet under. The urge to see just how far you can push things. The urge to welcome the end, the worst, with open arms just because you can. And really, I don't think these protagonists, any of them, were bad people. They were just, people. People like you and me, albeit in odder circumstances. But think of the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion. Think of the mobile game Little Alchemy. Hell, think of literally any sandbox game ever. It's clearly a universal instinct to want to play God, even if just for a little bit. We have always been like this. We've always wanted to know the unknowable. We've been to the moon. We've created self-driving cars. We have artificial intelligence. We have virtual reality, and we still keep going. we don't know when to quit. Every success and innovation drives us to continue even further, and every mistake even more so. Take all of the supernatural elements out of the equation here, and just what you're left with are scientists doing what scientists have always done. And maybe we won't turn into an eldritch, writhing horror in our hubris. Maybe we'll just burn ourselves out. But that lack of spectacle, isn't that just as, if not even more scary? That silent death, that slow decline. T.S. Eliot, in his poem The Hollow Men 100 years ago, had already been engulfed by this fear. "This is how the world ends," he wrote. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. Aha, you've discovered the end of the video. I sincerely appreciate you sticking around this long. This was, kind of a weird one, but I don't know, I thought it was interesting, and I really wanted to make a video on it, and you guys apparently wanted me to make a video essay, and also, thank you for the support on my last video. 121 subscribers may not seem like a lot, but like it definitely also is. That's like definitely more people than I know in real life. So that's pretty cool. Like I don't think at any point in my life I've known and like kept in contact with even like 100. So that's genuinely crazy. Not even 50 probably. But I digress. Video games and horror are like my two favorite things in the world, and it makes me really, really happy to know that so many people want to sit and watch and listen to me share my favorite bullshit. Like, sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate everything. I really wanted to end this very depressing and nihilistic, video on a positive note, so I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or night, and take care of yourself. Drink water, take your meds. Remember that nature always wins, the important stuff. And I will see you on the other side.